Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Amazy, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. Brothers, anyone can talk the talk, but not everyone can walk the walk. And that's why here at Porn Reboot, where we do walk the walk, I'll be sharing every few episodes some snippets of success stories and testimonials from brothers who are in our implementation intensive and in our free groups. And they're going to be sharing some of the results they've been getting so that this can further inspire you to take action on all the different tips and techniques that you learn while listening to the Porn Reboot podcast. Enjoy.
What's going on, Reboot team? It is Chris here with another testimonial from a brother that comes to us from our implementation program. I am here today with Brandon. What's going on, sir?
Not much. How about yourself?
Hey, man, we're living life, man. We're doing good. Appreciate you, like I said earlier, making the time and taking the time and talking to us about your experience in the Reboot program. First things first, before I dive into, where you're at now, I'm kind of curious about where you used to be and how you first discovered the group to begin with.
I guess where it used to be, I was the awkward kid that didn't know how to talk to girls or make friends or none of that stuff. So I got to a point, I guess that was probably 2 years prior to finding the program. I was like, I want some help, and I found a place or a program online. It was kind of help you end your behavior, and part of the program was to tell your parents or someone about it. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that, so I can't quit. And then I finally came across JK and JK's Instagram page and was watching some of his stuff, listening to what he had to say, and got to a point where I was only can't necessarily hit rock bottom, but I was ready to change because I wanted to do something with my life rather than live in my parents' basement. So I got on a call with the Reboot strategist. It was beginning of 2023, and the rest is history.
Yeah, man. I'm curious. Well, I definitely want to talk to you about your experience in the Reboot group versus your experience doing the no stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm curious about what was the moment like when you finally put skin in the game, okay, I'm gonna finally, something about this JK guy, I'm finally gonna invest in this program, and you're speaking with a strategist. What was finally the tipping point where you're just you know what, I want this is the right thing to do?
I guess the thing pushed me over the edge to go for it was the one thing I wanted in life was to have a relationship and get married and have a family. So I knew I couldn't bring that baggage into a relationship because it would only just make tension and so on and so forth. So seeing JK and I guess where he's at in life, kind of the public image that he puts out, it's this guy has it together. So I want to be like that. I don't want to be like this kid that feels like he's still in high school, has no idea what's going on, doesn't know how to talk to girls or none of that. I want to have the confidence to actually be me and be myself and actually accomplish stuff in life.
I love that you said that. I mean, it resonates with me heavy because when I was in the depths of my own compulsive behaviors, I was that kid. I had a lot of energy, and it's, I had skills and hobbies and interests and stuff. But as far as taking that energy and channeling it toward, pursuing girls and stuff, I was that kid who didn't have a date, and I get it, so that resonates with me heavy. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can vibe with that as well. So you're in the group, you finally, you know what, this is the right thing to do. You finally tip over and take that plunge. What was it like when you finally joined the group?
I was super anxious because I was everyone knows what's going on and I'm the new guy here. But I was super anxious, but at the same time it was relieving because I was all right, I'm in somewhat of a safe place that I'll be called out, but at the same time I can be honest and 100% with people and actually make changes and not fear judgment because we're all in the same place.
Yep.
I mean, in a way, we're all in the same place. A lot of brothers have progressed, but we all came from the same very, very humble beginnings.
Absolutely, man. The great thing about this group is that there's so many guys. I mean, you're around men that have a very similar mission to you. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And well, first of all, the culture of the group, we call each other a special word. And it was the first thing that I noticed when I first joined. We call each other brothers. And I thought that was interesting. I'm curious as to why you think that's important. Like, why do we call each other like brothers in the struggle?
I guess I kind of had the same thing. I was like, this is kind of odd, but at the same time, it's like kind of saying, hey, we're in this together. We're brothers in this. It's not like you're my, I guess, an accountability partner. I guess it kind of brings up a partnership, but it doesn't make that connection that we're brothers in this. We're one and the same.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And even when we move on or graduate from the group, we're still in connection, man. We
Absolutely.
are among the few that actually admitted the fact that, okay, this type of behavior is proven to be unhealthy for me, but among the fewer that are actually doing something about it. And we're able to bond in a really unique way. So yeah, man, brothers in the struggle. So you meet a lot of these brothers in the group itself.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to what are some things that you learned during your time in the group?
I think a lot of my, I guess, this, you guys like personal, emotional stuff. I always struggle with being honest or communicating with people. So I would always bottle up my emotions, overthink it. And then, of course, it's like shaking a can of Sprite and you open it up and it explodes everywhere. Except it doesn't necessarily explode. You just implode more so. And it's all in you.
Yeah.
No one ever hears about it. So it obviously goes nowhere. So I learned, even through my current relationship, I'm learning a lot about communication, how important that is to make that present to them, because they obviously don't know what you're thinking. So if there's something that's bothering you, they're not gonna know about it until you bring it up. That actually happened recently. I was kind of getting to the point where I was feeling like, oh, I want to bottle this up. I was like, I just need to talk to her about it. It was 30 minutes after I talked to her, it was like everything was back to normal. I was perfectly fine. It didn't end up crashing a day later. It was talked about it, simple, done with it, dealt with, and we're back to good.
So good, man. That's really, really encouraging. I'm curious as to what tools or what tips from a coaching call you may have applied to get to that level of comfort where you can finally express a thought or a feeling.
I would say journaling definitely helped, doing the feelings exercise, because it helps you analyze that feeling. Like, hey, I'm feeling this way, but what is the source of this feeling? And then as well as the dialoguing with myself, which I don't do much of writing it down as much now, but just kind of in my head, I'm like, oh, I want to do this. And Angel on my other side's like, hey, you know what this is like? This is like behavior that you would exhibit a year ago. So I'm like, well, yeah, I can see that. I'm kind of leaning back towards my default, and I'm not in a default anymore. I'm creating a new set of standards and everything. So the dialogue is now kind of like reminding me like, hey, you're not your old self anymore. You're your new self.
That's awesome. I want to latch onto that for a second before we move on. I'm creating a new set of standards. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing. Because when we get into, various recovery circles, there can be a bit of a misnomer where the concept of reboot or recovery equals abstinence or equals sobriety. What you said, really is the heart of what a lot of us eventually discover. Oh, this is what the whole point of it is. You come in with your stuff that you're looking to figure out, but as the more you learn and as you grow, you start to develop a new set of standards. So I'm curious about what that process in and of itself has been like for you, kind of like discovering maybe values or behaviors that prove to be unhealthy or unhelpful to you, starting to formulate or discover new ones. Like, what was that growth process like?
Definitely slow and trying to figure out, because you know yourself best, and then also being honest about it. So I guess through getting to that point, I was really attending a lot of the coaching calls. Like Milan, he did a lot of the neural reprogramming, and there's a lot of stuff that he would bring up that really hit home. I was like, oh, I'm a victim. I think like that. So that's the channel that I go down when I think like this. So some of that stuff being brought to your attention, it doesn't seem like much, but it's part of the issue. And even there's a book, I can't remember the title, What You Say When You Talk to Yourself. So there's simple stuff that was negative thinking. Like sometimes I can't remember names. So I'd say to myself, oh, I'm terrible at remembering names. Or I tell people I can't remember names very well, so forgive me. And second people tell me their names, it's just snap of a finger, their name's gone. So I didn't realize that was a negative way of thinking. So there's just small tidbit stuff like that seems normal. It's just something you say.
Isn't it
but
crazy?
It's really, really reprogramming your brain in the bad way, but you got to flip that around.
100%. Isn't that crazy? Like, you can just something like, oh, I don't remember names well. It's like the more you say that, the more that's going to become true.
Absolutely.
With that said, what are some of those like new self-beliefs that you may have implanted since then?
I would say a few of them would be, I guess, I'm not alone in this, because there's initially, I guess that first thing was breaking through the wall of shame, so to say, was to actually get on a call.
Yeah.
To saying I can do this, or I'm worthy of a relationship, or I'm better than what I think of myself in a way, more so, or previously.
But man, I mean, just those alone, like, I'm not alone in this, because you and I both know, how deep like a particularly unhealthy rabbit hole can go, where you're just feeling sorry for ourselves all the time and alone and this, that, and the third. But once you find yourself in a community like this, it's like, oh, snap. We said earlier, there are so many people that are dealing with a very similar thing. While our stories may be different as far as what led us here, we're all looking to have like a similar, which is super, super cool. So with that said, a question I like to ask is this. If you were to meet somebody, having learned what you've learned and having these realizations, what is something that you like to say to somebody who might be still struggling in silence, and the way that you and I know about really well, just not knowing what to do, not knowing where to turn, having learned what you've learned and having experienced what you have now, is there anything you'd want to say to that person?
I would say you're absolutely not alone in this, because everyone that feels alone in this is you're far from alone, because I know for sure, just in the Facebook group or just in our group, there's 250 guys that are working through this, or probably more than that now. I can't remember last time I checked. But yeah, you're definitely not alone. And if you're scared to join the program, worried about the money, whatever, it's figure it out, budget, whatever you need to do. It is well worth the money. That was my biggest concern, was the money, because that was another kind of negative. The little devil on my shoulder was like, hey, that's a lot of money. What if you're not successful? And I was like, yeah, what if I'm not successful? I just wasted that money. But you got to believe in yourself and go for it. And if you're worried about the money, use that as a thing like, hey, I'm going to get my money's worth out of this. I'm going to make sure I get every value from a dollar, whatever it is you want to say, but go for it, do it. You'll never regret it.
No, I love that you spoke to that, because it's real. It's so true. It's an investment for sure. It's a financial investment. It's a time investment. It's an emotional investment. But if this is something that you're serious about, you'll understand that this is something worth investing in. We've been struggling with an out of control behavior for a while. And if you are looking to put skin in the game and, like you said, develop that new set of standards and that new identity, really, then, you will reap what you sow in that regard. Yeah. So I suppose with all that said, you alluded to this a little bit, but would you recommend this program to somebody like that?
Absolutely. Go for it. Don't look back. Don't let the little devil on your shoulder or your addict self tell you that you're not good enough, you can't do it, because I know you can do it. Everyone can do it. You just got to put your mind to it.
Absolutely, man. You are not alone. You can absolutely do this. If you put your mind to it, you sincerely can accomplish anything. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And you've got the coaches who are here to help you. You've got the Reboot heroes and the fellow brothers in the struggle that are here to help you. And I'm one of them. Brandon's one of them. We've been there. And yeah, man, let's get you rebooted, okay? But Brandon, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insights. All the best to you, brother.
Thank you.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is, if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.